we wanted to treat this panel as a way of just introducing new immersive creators into the world of immersive creation. Can I just take a quick poll of the room? How would you define yourselves as people who are already creating an immersive? There you go. All right. How about some more traditional creators of 2D VR? All right. Good to see. We have a little bit of overlap. That's awesome. This is your audience, guys. So one of the things that we want you to consider through this panel is how might new creators of immersive worlds jumpstart their careers, understanding audiences, different story approaches, executing your overall vision, and making your work accessible to a variety of audiences. And of course, all of the tools and the skills that are necessary to do that. So to kick us off, I'd like to introduce our panel. Actually, I want our panelists to introduce themselves. David, why don't you kick us off?
Sounds good. I'm David Fleeman. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Trends for Dubbit. And Dubbit is not a dubbing company. It is a split company between half research and strategy consultancy around kids, media and technology and entertainment, and half game studio. We are primarily, are the slides? The slide is up now. So you see how to get in touch with me. And I've just included a couple images from some of the work that we've been doing primarily in Roblox. We were created as a virtual worlds company back in 1999. We pivoted from there to be more of an iOS company, to be more of a, to build platform games for companies. And now we're deeply immersed in the Roblox space, as well as Fortnite, Zepeto, and some of the other immersive platforms, building not only full worlds. You can see some of the things that we've built there, but also we're now into virtual fashion. And at the very end, you'll see some work that we did for Adidas very recently around virtual fashion. We can change the slide. The main point I want to bring across today is less about our game building and more about the world of creators right now. That when pre-pandemic, we were 70 people, almost all in Leeds, building fairly traditional games. Post-pandemic now, we are 150 people all over the world. That's our Roblox team that you see there in their avatars. And we are hiring people who are self-taught, who learned how to build in games platforms because they were intrinsically motivated to build the games that they wanted to play. And the benefit for us is they are of an age where they understand the platform, they understand the audience, and they are building the games that their generation wants to play.
Thank you, David. Jonathan.
What up? What up? How's everybody doing? Good? All right. My name is Jonathan Winbush, multi-motion graphics, award-winning motion graphics artist based out of Southern California. A little bit about myself. I've won BAFTA awards, Telly, Promax, Cannes Film Festival. I've worked with Marvel, DC, Happy Madison, NFL. I got the Epic Mega Grant for my educational work I do with Unreal Engine, along with the YouTube grant as well. And then last year, I got the co-headline the Design and Animation World Tour, going from United States, Canada, parts of Asia, Eastern Europe, just touring the world doing this type of stuff, educating everybody on what exactly we do. And if you could go to the next slide there. Maybe the next one. Yep. So today I'm going to be speaking about some immersive experiences that I've been doing inside of Fortnite. And a lot of times people ask me why Fortnite. I think the numbers speak for themselves. Like at GDC, they just released the top 40 creators and what they've earned. Top creator earned over $20 million. 40th earned over $1 million. You know, you have number 40 through 50 making around 900 to 800,000. That's not going to happen for everybody, but there is money to be made there. So, you know, as my background as a motion graphics artist, we're dealing with layoffs. You know, a lot of TV shows got frozen up. So a lot of times people ask me, like, what are you doing for work? This is the type of stuff that I'm doing. Like I'm building worlds inside of Fortnite just to have some side income because it's all based off of player retention. So if you build an experience, the longer the players are in it, the more money you'll generate. And even if it's just a couple $100 or a couple thousand, every penny counts, right? And so if you look down there in the bottom corner, just real quick, I wanted to just point out that inside of Fortnite at any given time, there's around 4 million players at that particular instant. And sometimes, like last month, it reached over at 11 million people. And I think the highest number it had was around 40 million players at one given time. And that's when Eminem did his concert inside of Fortnite. But, like Lady Gaga just did a concert there that ran around 20 million concurrent players. So the audience is there. And so if you're going to build an experience, why not take it to where where the audience is? So that's what I'm going to be speaking about more today. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Michaela.
Hi all, my name is Michaela Ternasky Holland. I'm an Emmy Webby award-winning immersive director. Basically that means the work I'm doing is thinking about how we immerse the audience into the story and not just have the audience. I like to see the whole room. Sorry, I feel like the podium blocked me. Sorry. Basically how we immerse the audience into the world that we're trying to create and how we build the story around the audience and give the audience some form of agency. That can just be literally the agency to look around, or it could be the agency to actually impact the world, impact the story, impact the narrative. That's my information up there. So we were told to plug ourselves at the beginning. So there's all my info. The next slide I want to show is actually my sizzle reel, just so I can talk you all through some of these things. There we go. So we're using production workflows in a lot of the immersive space that is traditional medium focused. So the VR animation film that you're seeing play right now was made using Oculus Quill, where we're actually utilizing real-time animation, 3D animation. And then the other thing I'm always thinking about is how do we create the space for the experience for people to come see the project in headset. So that's a little bit of those installations. This is a non-installation piece that was a generative AI project about cultural erasure and Filipino history. And another part of being a director working in this immersive medium is also the physical reality. My focus is in social impact. So the work I'm doing is trying to create change. It's trying to create real world ideas that people don't always get to explore. And so with this project, On the Morning You Wake Save the World, I was able to take the project to different places like the Nobel Peace Center, the Museum of the Moving Image, and really thinking about not just how we create the world in the headset, but how does the world in the headset come to the specific audience we're looking for. And now this is just sort of like the plethora of other projects I've worked on, from VR animation, like you saw before, but also traditional virtual reality. So game engine, 360 video, the kind of classic storytelling that I think a lot of you will probably hear about when you're here on the show floor, utilizing traditional film production techniques or virtual production techniques to be able to tell those stories. So I like to think of it as like a multifaceted experience. We have our digital reality where we're creating stories in real time. Being on your phone right now, looking at Instagram, being on your phone right now, sending an email, you are a part of that digital reality. And how do we use interfaces in the physical reality, like virtual reality headsets, like iPhones, like iPads, like laptops, to interface with that digital reality? And how is that all of one complete story from digital to physical? Because a creator isn't just about what you do in like a technological standpoint, but the creation of those stories is all about connecting humans to each other. So the physicality of that connection is really important to me as well.
Amazing. So this is a wonderful group of team of folks here to learn from. I want to start us off because we have a lot to cover in a very short amount of time, and I want to make sure that everybody walks away with a few tools and ideas under their belt. And then we also have a couple of special announcements at the end to share with you all. So Jonathan, I'm curious, given all the work that you've done with communities and independent creators, how are you finding artists are being inspired to start learning these new technologies?
Yeah, like back when I first started working in the industry, like it almost felt like it was being gatekept, right? Because the software was really expensive. A lot of times you had to pirate it just to kind of get your hands on it if you didn't have the money to go to university. But nowadays, like you have a whole plethora of free tools. You have like Unreal Engine, you have Blender, some of the AI stuff that's out there. Like the creators today, I always tell them that they're lucky because, I can admit it now, but I used to have to pirate everything when I was young. And we had to get the manuals from the library, like these big, thick manuals. You had to study that. But now, like people like myself out there on YouTube, we're teaching it for free. And a lot of people are learning on their own. Like they're not even going to university anymore. They just find like a YouTube course. They download Unreal Engine and they're just off to the races. So there's a whole plethora of, like tools out there for them to get started.
That's incredible and noble work and bold statement to make on camera. David, so you doubled your team after the pandemic, which is impressive to say the least. How are artists getting trained with your team, with your tools? And also, how are you identifying these experts in technology that's, maybe only 6 months old?
I think what Jonathan says is so important to that, because so many of the tools are free now that a lot of the people who are coming to work for us are coming from parts of the world that we might never have looked for creators, for designers, for coders before, but they have the access to the Roblox, in particular building tools, and so they are self-taught doing it. But the other thing that's come from this is that you have these networks, global networks of game builders, starting from age 12 and going up into adulthood, who, as I said before, design for themselves. But when they get stuck on something, they have several sources they can go to figure out how to get past it. YouTube videos. There's this wonderful loop of I get stuck, I go to YouTube, I figure it out, I come back, I keep building till I get stuck again. There are collaboratives of builders out there who are working. They may not be located in the same place at all, but they find that they have common interests in the types of games that they like to build, and they teach each other some of the tools. One of the most interesting stories, I think, of people that Dubbit's been hiring. We had he's gone now to build his own company again, but we had a guy who was 19 years old. He had started his own company when he was 12. He had built one of the most popular games on Roblox. He came and worked for us because he could do that part-time and build his own games part-time. He was profoundly deaf. That never stopped him from becoming a creator and from connecting up with these networks. We sometimes think of it as the Ocean's 11. I guess we're in the right town for it. The Ocean's 11 of designing teams, that when we are building a game for a brand, for a company, we go and look for the best people anywhere in the world that we can bring together to form a team for just the amount of time it takes to build that project. They may not have all their time taken up, so they may go off and do other projects on their own while they're doing it, but then they'll split up and we'll build the next team for the next thing that we need to create.
No, that's absolutely impressive. And I know, Michaela, you have such an expansive creative mind, and you don't have a technical background. Can you share a bit about your experience in your creator journey, how you found yourself here? Because I think they're listing out the tools, and I think you may have lived something close to that experience.
I am that lived experience, actually. The funny part is I actually have a dance and performance background with a journalism degree in long form journalism. So how do you write the next Seabiscuit, basically, which is a very long novel. So I have a non-technical background. I went and danced and performed on Disney Cruise Line, Disneyland, SeaWorld, Legoland, and I said, I want to make stories that make these people have transformative experiences. And I see it happen every day at these theme parks. I see it happen every day on cruise ships. How can we do it in journalism? How can we do it in nonfiction storytelling? How can we do it in documentaries? We need to bring this spatial human experience back. We need to give the audience agency. And so I did exactly what they said. I went on YouTube and I taught myself how to use Premiere Pro. And then in 2016, I taught myself how to use Premiere Pro. And a year later, I was teaching myself how to use 360 cameras. And I started working at Time Magazine as an associate producer, helping them work on all their different verticals for VR and AR technology as a producer. And I got asked to 360 video edit a VR documentary about climbing Mount Everest that ended up winning an Emmy 6 months later. So I literally went from being one of those YouTube, thank you,
YouTube to Emmy in 6 months. You heard
like a year.
Possible.
And just keep perfecting that craft. And I would say, for me, it's less about what you know right now, and it's more about what are you willing to learn tomorrow. I was recent graduate from UC Irvine, working as a PA in Los Angeles. From 9 to midnight, I would just dedicate that time to learning Premiere Pro and learning VR 360 video, because I knew that was my end. I knew I couldn't learn game engines overnight. I didn't have that background. I had a storytelling background, so I could take a camera. I had a journalism background. I could take a camera. I could go to a houseless encampment, talk to people, film their story. I could go to an event and film that event. But learning that was just me being willing to dedicate a little bit of time while still making the money I needed to as a recent grad to survive. And that opened the door for me to work at Time Magazine. So it's really, it's accessible. It's about who you are and knowing what you're interested in. And it's dedicating just a little bit of time every day. It doesn't have to happen overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. So the tools are there. And I think the inspiration comes from within. Does anybody maybe want to throw out some ideas where to start pulling story inspiration or how to find and identify your audience? Like how do we really start digging into where do we even begin with this technology?
I guess I would start by saying that one of the misconceptions about the platforms that we're working on, about Roblox in particular, is that it's a children's platform. The fastest growing audience right now for Roblox is 14 to 27. They really want to be a Gen Z platform even more than they want to be a Gen Alpha platform. It feels to me as though you can understand who gamers are, but if you don't have that story inside you that you want to tell, if you don't have that world that you want to create, if you can't envision it, you're not going to find an audience. It's Gen Z and Gen Alpha are the most attentive audience to being marketed to, and they are to inauthenticity. So if you don't have a story, a world that you really want to build, that you feel you want to share, they'll see through it right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, is to trying to find the audience for me. Like my background, is in motion graphics, so I played video games, but I never played Fortnite, right? And so once I got interested, because I do work with Epic Games, and they were talking about how they're going to release a platform for creators to start making experiences through Fortnite. So the first thing I did was I went to Twitch and I started looking at all the top streamers. And then I just started talking to them. I reached out to them on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and just really got a grasp for what the community was. And I would just sit there and I would observe. So I would just watch what the streamers are doing, see what their audience was, and then in turn, just ask them questions about it because I wanted to be, in that community. I didn't want to just make experiences and then say like, hey, look at me, I just made something. Like I really wanted to immerse myself within the audience there so that I'm not making something that might, offend the audience, like I'm making experience and that's not something that they're really digging. And so I really just wanted to understand, and I thought the best place, YouTube, Twitch, let's go to the people that are already at the top and have the audience there and just ask questions.
I mean, for me, it's about unapologetic authenticity. Like, what are you interested in? Like, you are the creator, you are creating, you are birthing something. So what is it that you want to incubate for 9 months, a year and a half to get it through development, to get it through production, to get it out into the world? You are going to be bringing this thing into reality, and it has to come from your own mind. So if you're feeling like, oh, I don't know anything about XYZ, but I'm interested in learning, that's a good moment. If you're like, oh, I want to force myself into doing this for this audience, that's not a good moment because you're going to constantly be frustrated with like your imposter syndrome. You're going to constantly be frustrated with how you're feeling about, I don't know anything about this. So I'm Filipino American. I make Filipino American content. I make projects about Philippine mythology. I use generative AI as a way to show cultural erasure in the Filipino American community because it's my lived experience. I create experiences that highlight female and women of color. I create experiences where I collaborate with indigenous folks who I help to be the bridge that brings their project to the forefront and help them to crystallize their vision. But that's because that's what I value. Those are things I'm excited about. So first, as a creator, you have to ask yourself, what do you value? What are you excited about? And then from there, understand that your audience is probably also excited by those things because there are people who also think like you. And so sometimes, especially working in virtual reality, it's quality over quantity. So when you're chasing down an audience that's already this small, you're probably going to alienate them versus trying to say, well, how do I connect to a human on a human level? And I'm excited to talk about this. And I think another human would be excited to experience that in a headset, in a Roblox, in a Fortnite. And that's, I think, really important because we often lose that part of authenticity for you as a creator. It's a lonely road, but if you can get collaborators around you to see your vision, then it becomes a successful piece of work, not just for you, not just for your collaborators, but also for your audience.
Just a quick follow-up on something Jonathan was saying is that one of the main differences between linear and games platforms in particular is with linear, once you lock it down, it's done. It's out there. With games, you can constantly change. So talking to your audience, listening to your audience, watching how they play, you can get the analytics that tell you nobody's going to this part of the game, or if they do, they're leaving right away. Let's cut that out. Let's build over here where the audience is engaging.
Yeah, you're not making broadcast content, right? You're not trying to reach the traditional demographic of people. Like when you put things into your content, they're like, I didn't get that part of it. You're like, well, then maybe that wasn't meant for you. It was meant for someone who would understand it. And that's great because that's the immersive, interactive quality of what you're making, the agency, the ability to give people the ability to explore something. And in that way, it's like if you are a filmmaker, you like control. You like to control the lens. You like to control the frame. You like to control every single piece of the edit. If you want to jump into immersive world making, you've got to let go of the control and you have to start trusting your audience. And that's the fun that I find in it is that a relationship you build with your audience is more direct than just you controlling frame by frame what you're showing them on a screen.
I think that's wonderful. Audiences, especially in immersive, are far more powerful, I think, than they've been given authority to hold power over in the past in entertainment before. I think that the one question that, and I want to make sure we have time for our announcements at the end, but one question I think that's on everybody's mind is, we're here in the far reaches of the conference because we all have a story in our hearts. We all have something we want to say. How do we bundle that up, right? Because the big question is, okay, how do I finance it? And that, I think, is the big question. So any tidbits of advice in terms of how do we bundle that up to make it appealing and attractive for additional partners and folks maybe you bring into these projects?
Yeah. So I would say on my half that Epic Games, they really are all about the community and people are doing stuff out there. So they actually do have a program called the Epic Mega Grant, which I received a couple of years ago. And if you have a project that you're passionate about, you actually can put a proposal together and send it out to them. And a lot of times they'll actually fund your project. So you can't just write it out and say, like, I want to do this, this, and this. Like, you got to show and prove, right? And so, like, you build out your prototype, or in my case, like I'm doing education, I wanted to put together a course for everybody to go out there and learn Unreal Engine 5. And so because I had paid courses before, but people in, parts of the world that couldn't afford my course, they would reach out and say, like, hey, I can't afford $200. That's a whole month and a half worth of income for me. So I went to Epic. I said, you know what? I want to do a free course, put it out on my channel. Would you guys support it? And they absolutely support it. I put a free tutorial, or not tutorial, I put a free 5-hour course out there, and people actually got jobs off it. So they got working at like EA Games, ESPN, Fox Sports, things of that nature. And I'm all about education, right? Like, I feel like if we empower more people, then as a whole, that reciprocates back to this, because there might be somebody in the country that figures something out because it's something that they watched them on, and in return, they're sharing information with me for stuff that I had no idea about. So it's a constant back and forth. And like you were saying with the audience relationship, like that never ends. And so I would just say, look for programs out there like that. Even YouTube, they have grant programs. I got that as well. And then as well as, I know for me, like my Fortnite experience I'm working on, I've been just putting tidbits up there on YouTube, or not YouTube, up on Twitter, and just kind of getting like the engagement and interest of it. And that's a good way too. I've seen people actually fund their projects by putting stuff out there, and people actually say like, hey, do you have a Patreon? I would love to support what you're doing. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go out there and fund your projects. It might not be the easiest way. Like, you might have to build it up and get people interested, but if there's a will, there's a way. So I would just say, go out there, put yourself out there, and see what happens. You never know.
I mean, I think that's why I always tell people that you should have a job where you're getting your like bills paid, and then you should also have like your creative projects. And when you can do both and the same thing, that's great. Like, I don't know about you all, but like I graduated in 2016 from my undergrad. Go ahead. I'm 29. Like, I stepped into a world where I was like, it's not set out in stone for me to go and like make things happen for myself. I can't just like be at home because of personal reasons. I can't just be here doing this and that. So it was really about, okay, what is going to be my stable income source? And that doesn't have to be in the creation field. It can be like a barista. It can be at a restaurant. For me, it was a production assistant on set, like grinding every day for 12 plus hours. Like it has to be, we have to talk about the fact that there needs to be financial stability for you to feel comfortable to be a creator. If you're constantly leaving your creation, if you're constantly pitching your creations from a place of scarcity and desperation, people are not going to fund that energy. They're funding energy that is confident, that is like, you understand what you're doing, you see the vision, you know how you're going to get it done. And so that is often the place that I come to when I pitch my projects. I have a deck, I have a vision, I have a team of people that have already agreed they'd want to work on it. I have a set budget, I have a timeline, and I'm out there pitching the project. And whether it's a Meta who's willing to fund $500,000 for a fully female produced, directed VR animation series that's retelling fairy tales and folklores using VR animation, or if it's a project about nuclear weapons threat and we're wanting to take this project and tour the world and go to the Nobel Peace Center and go to students at high schools and universities, there's also people willing to fund that work and fund research around that work. But you have to come from it from an energetic standpoint. Why does this matter? Why do I matter to tell that story? And in that space, you can get anything funded, whether that's even, like you said, on social media. Like when you're bringing that energy to social media, when you're bringing that energy to building a community from the ground up, people are magnetically attracted to that and people want to invest in that. And I think we often don't talk about the fact that, like, in order to feel that way, you have to feel financially stable, probably somewhere else in your life. And that is A-okay. And that is super important.
Absolutely. I want to jump us in. David, you have a special announcement for us, yeah? A nice little call to action here.
Yeah, I think it's just a clip that I wanted to bring to demonstrate the kind of work we've been doing. I left out one X on this. This should be X X. The designer and creator who we're working with on our Adidas work. Give you a good sense of what fashion in the metaverse looks like. I'm old. I was amazed to find out that young people today spend more on their avatar fashion than they do on the clothes that they wear in real life.
So are these avatar fashions, let's say, is this a monetization opportunity?
The monetization opportunity, Roblox is very soon going to allow direct links to physical stores, so you could buy something for your avatar and for yourself. At the moment, it's either monetization or often we will drop a large number of free items to get people to go into the games. We partner with about 10 or 15, with about 100 different games on Roblox that allow us to put stores into their games.
Thank you so much. That's fascinating. Yeah. Is it not playing? Michaela.
Oh, okay, great. So, I talked about the Reimagine series. It is a fully female produced, directed VR animation series. Volume 1 premiered at Venice. Oh, also, if you're a filmmaker and you're like, I'm trying to get my film at these huge festivals like Venice or South by Southwest or Tribeca, maybe think about doing something immersive, because those applications have such a smaller pool. And so we were actually able to showcase Volume 1 at Venice, Volume 2 at Tribeca, and now Volume 3 at this most recent South by Southwest. And this is the trailer to what we showcased. You're getting a glimpse of what you see in headset. This is a retelling of a Southern Nigerian folktale with co-director alongside of Melissa Joyner, who identifies as Black and comes from a theatrical community and background. Volume 2 was a Philippine mythology project that I directed, and Volume 1 I produced was a retelling of Brothers Grimm fairy tale. But this is a great example of, like, building an IP as a creator. So it wasn't just about doing one-off experiences, but about tying it all together as an overarching brand. So now when you go into, like, the VR community, most people know what the Reimagine series is because we've had 3 years of dropping content. We've had 3 years of premiering at festivals. And so our hope now is we can package this IP. We can show that it's really valuable. We can show people are really impacted by it and continue to empower other female directors, other female producers, other female writers who haven't been able to touch virtual reality, using this brand to give them a platform, to give them the ability to say, well, what story, what fairy tale, what mythology matters to you, and how do you want to reimagine it for virtual reality?
Thank you, Michaela. And Jonathan, do you want to intro your video, or you want to talk about it after?
Yeah. So, I've been working for the past couple of years with Method Man of the Wu-Tang Clan. We first started off with the comic book series. Fun fact, Method Man learned how to read through comic books. And so he has, like, an affinity for it. It's his passion. And so a couple of years ago, we actually found each other through Twitter. Like, we were doing Twitter spaces, and he heard me talk about my background in motion graphics, and I'm a big comic book nerd as myself. And so his team reached out to me, said, would you be interested in working with Meth on a comic book character? And so I designed some characters out for them. We put a 2D comic out. We did some motion comics, but then once Fortnite opened their platform, we were like, why don't we take the comic book and bring it into a playable immersive experience? And so what you're going to be seeing here is some of the gameplay. So it's called Method Man Battle for New York City. This is all built within Unreal Engine for Fortnite. I'm not a game programmer at all, and I was able to actually make fully immersive game with no coding at all. So I'm just going animation in 3D, and this is something that I was able to create, just being a solo artist. And so this is the type of project that I really want to showcase out there, because I show people that you don't have to be like a big programmer or have like a big team behind you. Like solo creators can create cool experiences just like this. And like I was saying online, there's a whole plethora of information out there. The artist community is usually really tight knit. So if you have a question, put it out there. People are more than willing to help you, especially on Discord. There's a Fortnite Discord that you could go on. People are really nice on there. And, that was just a couple of months in the making, and I have the first level done. We're going to be releasing it here in a few more weeks, but, I'm really excited to get that one out there. And then the next one, I'm actually motion capturing, Mixmaster Mike of the Beastie Boys tomorrow. I'm going up to his, Vegas studio, and that's going to be the next experience that I'm bringing into Fortnite. We're going to be doing, a fully immersive concert in Fortnite. So Mixmaster Mike, Beastie Boys. We got Chuck D from Public Enemy that just actually hit us up. He wants to be involved in it. And then Float On from out in the UK, works with Skrillex and stuff. So really excited about that project, but just trying to push the limit and really show people what individual creators can really do.
Amazing. Let's please give a round of applause to this amazing group of panelists for sharing all of their knowledge. Thank you all so much for spending the afternoon with us. I know we need to wrap and transition into the next panel. So if you all have any follow-up questions, some of our panelists will be available over here in the lounge. Thank you all for your time and attention today.
Thank you.
Nice job, Erika.